I like loyalty. I like profitability a lot. And I'm the guy that wants to get in your head and make you think just enough, leave you my knowledge and what I learned, that if they reach out to somebody like Nick and they go, okay, I got my head straight, I understand business now, I know I got a plan, now I need somebody to help me process. What's really important is before you leave here, is you leave every single bit of knowledge you can to the next generation so they can be better. He said, if you do that, then you were truly successful.
Welcome back to the Reside Platform Podcast. I'm really excited because we got a special guest, Sammie Knight. This man is, in my mind, a world of wisdom, experience, and also on the front lines with us every single day in a lot of the same groups. He owns 5 ReMax offices, a property management company, a mortgage company, and has 25, 30 years of consulting experience in business and marketing and networking. Sammie, thanks for joining us.
What an honor, Nick. Thank you. I'm really excited about spending a little bit of time with you.
Yeah. So, you're such a humble man. And with that makes me really curious. 5 offices, brokers, agents, businesses. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did we end up here today? How did Sammie end up in real estate?
I have a full past of experience, and most of which was either accidental or stumbled into it, or, I wish I could tell you that I woke up one day and I felt that urge and that brain power all of a sudden said, here's the path you need to go. I never did that. My past is in sales, marketing, operations, sourcing. Started out in the food business. I actually started out in telecommunications and then left that and got in the food business, worked my way up and ended up running a shelf-stable division for one of Sara Lee's companies. And I happened to have the international sales for canned food. And I also was responsible for the poultry processing, canned processing, a company that you've probably seen on the shelf if you've ever bought chicken broth called Sweet Soup.
Oh.
And we did a lot of international business, a lot of domestic business as well, but ran all sides of that, none of which I was educated to do. I just always felt like I wanted to be in sales a long time ago. 40 years ago, and the opportunity presented itself, and I was a guy that was an absolute sponge. If you wanted to talk about business, I wanted to listen, and I wanted to build a strong enough relationship with you that anytime you wanted to talk about business I could learn from, you'd call me. And so probably my single biggest strength is building relationships. And I did that through those years, and then I moved on into the camouflage business, local business in Mississippi that had designed patterns. We would design patterns, license the product, print fabric, license the brand, and so on and so forth to countless different companies. I think we had 12 or 1,400 companies that we worked with, and we did business all around the world, whether it be printing, whether it be manufacturing the garments or the boots or the headwear or the, firearm or whatever it may be, or maybe the manufacture of the zipper for a backpack or for a gun case, and we had a client or two that wanted to have the fabric on the outside of the zipper be camouflaged, so we'd have to work with them on the webbing. And most of that, I had a lady that worked with me, several others that worked with me, but most of that, the lady and myself would figure out. I wasn't a somebody that knew the textile industry. I wasn't somebody that knew, the printing industry. I can't even color good. And it's all self-taught. And I just became this sponge, maybe I was a guy that always had a desire to learn. And maybe that's what kind of did it. Corporate America ran its course. Over the years, I realized my strength was not working for somebody, so I finally had to realize I'm not a good employee because I'm quite quick to give my opinion, give my thoughts. So I left and I got into buying and selling land. Buy big tracts, break them down into smaller tracts. I thought that was the greatest job in the world. I never knew how to run a bulldozer or track hoe, any of that kind of stuff. But when I got into it, I would rent bulldozers and I would cut roads around the place. And man, that's like being a grown man playing with talking toys all over.
Talking toys. And you do this privately? This is for personal investment?
I did. And how I got into owning real estate agencies, I bought a piece of land one time and I subdivided it into 6 smaller parcels. I spent a little time out there, and I felt like it was more residential play than a recreational play. So I contacted a local real estate agent that I grew up with in my hometown. And she came out, and a lot of people have heard this story, but I'll shorten it. She came out to meet me, and when she got out of the car, now I'm in boots and blue jeans and a T-shirt, dirty. I'm ready to go out there and show some, I want to be able to say, okay, well, here's the spring that's on the land. Here's the pond. I want to take her and show her so she can sell the features. And she had on a skirt and a blouse and a pair of pumps. And I said, where's your boots? And she said, I don't have any boots. And I said, well, how are you going to see this? She said, well, I don't have to see it. You're going to tell me what you want. You're going to give me all the information I need, and then we'll sell it. And I thought, man, that's ridiculous. Oh, I'd known her all my life. So we put a deal together for her to represent me. And 2 weeks later, she bought me a buyer. And she came out. The buyer was from New York. She came in and she had on blue jeans, the way I told her to dress so I could show her and her boyfriend the land. My real estate agent was dressed the same, similar attire. And I said, still had pumps and a skirt, and I said, Joy, she got to have boots on so we can show your client. And she said, no, you're going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to sit here and work on my phone. Man, this gal is terrible. So I told the client of her, and I said, look, I'm going to show you around. I'm going to work the deal with you. I'll pay her commission. I'm going to honor what I said. But she really, just so you know, she's terrible. And we laughed, and I looked at Joyce, and I said, you really need to sell me your company. Now, I didn't know anything about owning a real estate office. And so Joyce came back about a week later with an offer on the land and a proposal on the business.
Wow.
And so I said, yeah, I'll buy it. She said, well, it's on a Sunday. When you want to close? And I said, Tuesday. And she said, that's too quick. And then we went back and forth, and she gave me a price, and I said, that's fine. Anyway, we closed about 3 weeks later. I walked in, gave her a check, signed the contract. And she said, who's going to be your broker? And I said, me? And she said, do you have a license? I went, oh, no, I'll just go down to the courthouse and take that test that people have to take. I didn't even know what you did. I had no idea. She broke the news to me, and she told me, and I said, well, let me have that money back, and you be my broker while I go through that process. And she said, no, you bought it. I'm selling it to you, and I'm not going to be your broker. There was a guy walking down the hall that I jumped out of the hallway like Spider-Man and almost tackled him and begged him to become the broker. And there's a story behind that too, but he agreed to it. I gave him a piece of it. That's how I started learning real estate, and I became a big time sponge. I know as much as anybody that's ever walked in the real estate community about all the rules and regs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I never got my license because in the state of Mississippi, you couldn't own an agency and be a sales agent. You had to be a broker, and you had to go through the process of sales agent first before becoming a broker. And had I done that, I would have had to give up the ownership of the business. So you could own the agency and be a non-licensed person, and that's what I chose to do.
So when
I'm
you,
still unlicensed today.
Sammie, so there's a lot there. One,
Yeah.
you're a sponge. And when I hear you say you're a sponge, I want to dive into that a little bit deeper. You learn everything about something. Is that because you're curious, or you have a need or an urge to understand how things work? They go hand in hand.
You know, I'm gonna take that back probably 30, 40 years ago and say the reason I'm that way is, this just gonna sound crazy, but I am an absolute fan of people. I love people, all walks of life. It doesn't matter what you do, who you are, and I wanted to always be able to talk to you. So if you're, I wasn't the smartest kid in school. They didn't come get me to be a Yale scholar. So I don't want anybody to be fooled. But I felt like if I could know a little bit about a lot of stuff, I would never be in an environment where I felt like I was outclassed, outnumbered, and couldn't engage in the conversation. And it didn't matter to me if you were the guy fixing my faucet and you were a apprentice for a plumber, or if you were the CEO of a Fortune 5 global entity. And I've worked with all of them and everything in between. I wanted to be able to sit when I was younger because I didn't have the confidence I needed. And I felt like if I could be the guy that knew a little bit about a lot of things, I could sit at any table, anywhere in the world.
And okay. So when you're able to be this person that is a polymath of sorts, they know a little bit about everything, and they can relate to people. You must have an ability to relate to people and build these relationships. So to take it back to the beginning of this conversation, you have this superpower of relationships, forging relationships. How can someone that's listening to this, what principles or steps or key points can you offer us on how to build a relationship?
So I'm a real simple guy, and my belief in building a relationship is if you and I are talking, there's nothing behind you, beside you, behind me that interferes in mine and your conversation. I'm going to be 100% focused on you. And you know how you'll be in a conversation, somebody will walk up behind one or the other and just kind of stand there and stare. And eventually, sometimes immediately, that conversation breaks so that one or the other can speak. I'm not that guy. That person, if I'm talking to you, that person that comes up behind you, I'm not going to even see them. I won't acknowledge them. Now they may stick their hand in, or they may interrupt and engage, and at that point, but if they don't do that, if they're just standing there waiting on me to say, come on in this conversation, it won't happen. Because I feel like you took the time to stand there and talk to me about either an issue, a problem, or an accomplishment. It's my responsibility to give you all the respect that you deserve so that you can share that with me. So I'm going to be very, very focused. And that probably is the one thing that's helped me the most. And because it didn't matter who you were. You know, if I've had conversations with people that were entry level, just really on the bottom of the totem pole, if you will, where a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company would walk up behind them, and I wouldn't even break the conversation to speak to them. I refused to. And, that person would interrupt, and I'd say hello, and we'd do our little thing. Then they'd walk away, and the person I'm talking to, and a lot of times it was a buyer, would be like, dude, man, I can't believe you didn't stop our conversation so you could speak to him. I'm like, why? I was talking to you, not him or her. And I'm very, very, very structured when it comes to that.
You're very structured and disciplined. It's amazing you said that, because it reminds me, I was just training some agents the other day, and I listened to their phone calls, and I felt like they were in a rush or distracted. You could just tell And I felt that everyone needed patience. And for you, I hear focus. When I'm in a conversation, you tunnel vision on that person. You're present in the moment. Is that what I'm hearing from you? Say you're very present, and you also have boundaries. You don't let other people invade or disrupt what's going on. How do you balance that focus with time and not letting that get away from you?
I think we have to make the conversation move in the direction that we all need them to, and being able to, take it where it is and get it to a closed point. Because there are times where folks just want to keep talking, or maybe I just want to keep talking, and they have things to do. So it's years ago we started developing with my sales team is how to channel the conversation, how to channel the close. And so when you feel that it's getting redundant, or it's okay, well, tell me one more time what you think, that kind of stuff, then it's our responsibility to channel it towards that close and wrap it up, I guess you would say. But it's those relationships that and most people will tell you that if you asked them that know me, if you said, hey, what's his single biggest strength? I would say 98% of them would tell you my ability to build a relationship, regardless of who you are.
Now, relationships, we mentioned before we jumped on this about connections and not getting out from the middle. So there's this relationship you're building one-on-one with somebody, or one-on-two, or one-on-three. But then how do you have a superpower of connecting people with other people you know? And where's the power there?
It goes back to my belief in people. Because I know a little bit about a lot of different things. I mean, I've worked inside, I want to say 1,200 different industries.
Wow.
In my years in licensing and sourcing. And I mean, you can't name an industry that I haven't had some contact with, I don't think. I'm sure there's probably something, but I've had some contact with so many different industries. And so I've got that little bit of knowledge. And when I pick up on those key topics or elements of a conversation that I'm having with someone, because I try to be so in the moment, I can recall another individual that may make sense for the two of them to know each other. I've never connected that dot with an expectation of getting a financial reward.
That's key.
I don't go into it with that. Has it ever happened? Yeah. But I don't go and say, okay, hey, Joe, I need you to meet Nick. Nick's got a great idea, and you got a great manufacturing facility, so the two of y'all need to be getting together. And by the way, you can pay me 2% and you can pay me 3%. Remember, I said when I was in the sourcing business, my job that I liked, the way I liked to do what I did when I did it for myself, was connect the dots, teach them how to do it, and then get out of the way. Let them do it. I didn't want to be in the middle. I didn't want to deal with the drama of things that may surface. I wanted to tell them how to do it and then hand it off. And so I guess just from referencing previous relationships or communications I've had and then connected, but I've never done it for a financial reward.
Not that wasn't your intention, but indirectly, I'm sure wealth, opportunities come your way, referrals come your way. So I want everyone to take note of that. That's not his goal. That's not his intention, but he understands long-term, the long-term game, the long-term play is going to come back, and it's not so much karma. Sammie, when you're working in so many different businesses and now you're in real estate, you own 5 ReMax offices, mortgages, how do you approach your real estate agents? How do you approach an agent just getting their license, getting into the industry? What tips do you give them? Wisdom do you bestow upon them so that they can be successful?
The first thing I try to do is ask them what they're trying to get out of this. Second thing I ask them is, do you view this as an opportunity, as a job, or as a career? And if it's an opportunity, sometimes that's an opportunity to make a little extra money so they can go buy something and try to, keep working another job or work another angle or not stay in it.
Yeah.
If it's a job, it's not going to be fun. If it's a career and they tell me that, then I'm going to do everything in my powers to teach them how to turn it into a career and make it be something that they never leave. Now, they may leave me, but if I did my job right, I always felt that if I trained you right and you left me, regardless of the industry I was in, if I trained you right and you left me, you left understanding what it meant to be a contributor to the industry. And I was going to be probably competing with you, but I knew you were going to add value to the industry. So how did I lose? Maybe I lost a good person, but I didn't. I gained a great person outside of me or outside of my business within the industry that I operated in. Because if we wake up and say, I'm this one person sitting on this island and I'm going to make $1 million on my island, we're not adding value to the industry that we love. So when you make it a career, part of your responsibility is to add value to the industry too. And I'm adamant about that. So if I can ever get that type of discussion going with them, then we get into things that are critical. If this is what you really want, to me, there's 4 P's in the world of operating your business. I mean, it's not once again, I go back to telling everybody I'm simple, but to me, it's planning, process, persistence, and profit. If you run your business with those things in mind, you can do whatever you want to.
So the 4 P's: planning, process, persistence, and profit. That's so good. And also it's really, I want to kind of reiterate what Sammie was saying about the impact on the industry. I kind of think the same way too, in some aspects, that if someone decides to have a career in real estate and I have the honor to train them and invest in them and help them along their career, and I like that, is this an opportunity, job, or a career? Do everything in your power to help them. And if they leave you, that's not a necessarily bad thing, as long as they go out there and they're good people and they have good character and I made an impact on their life. And also, Sammie, I've had agents on my team leave and start other businesses in the community, open up gyms, open up other businesses and pursue other things. And I would like to think that I had a small impact in developing that person as a human. You kind of look at coaches and things like that, they have those. John Wooden would have his players for 4 years, but his goal was to make them good men and contributors to society. And get a good education, not necessarily go pro. But when it comes to real estate, your company, what are some of the outside influences that you brought inside real estate? You talk about planning, you talk about process, persistence. How have those impacted your real estate brokerage?
I think the biggest single thing is the planning element.
Mm,
I'm pretty obsessed with
Real.
living in a world with a plan. And if there's one thing that I've seen agents um, that makes it that an agent will fail from is poor planning or lack of planning. If you're a pilot,
Right.
and big commercial pilot, you filed a flight plans. And you started where you got in that plane and you filed a flight plan, and everybody that controlled the skies knew your flight plan. And the goal was to land at your destination, everybody get off safe, and reload and make another one. And it's very, very similar. And why we don't look at our business that way. But the people that fail in real estate are the ones that don't plan it and get to it, become persistent
Mm,
at being successful with that plan and understanding the processes necessary to deliver that plan. And then at the end of the day, we can't do it for free. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, I am a believer in making a profit. I want everybody I do business with to make a profit. If I have a vendor that comes to me, say on the property management side, they're like, "Hey man, you're beating me to death. I can't make any money." I'm gonna say, "Well, let's sit down. Let's me and you talk, because I do want you to make a profit, because I don't want you to go out of business, because I need you.
mm.
So let me see if I can help you make a profit. But at the same time, I want you to understand that we need to, as well as our clients need to be profitable. So how do we make all this thing work together?" And that's been so helpful for me. But I'm a guy that lives 5 years out front. I'm a long range planning thinker. Um, I got an idea. I'm 64 today, be 65 at the end of the year. I've got a real good idea of what 70 looks like and kind of the path that I've got to take to get there. And then each year I'm adjusting that path. So, I started in real estate 20 something years ago, but I'm still working that same path that I had. At first I got into real estate and I wanted to have 20 agents. And well, I saw that was going to happen. So what do? Just stop? No, let me improve
Yeah.
that plan. What processes do I need to have in place to go to 40?
Mm.
And then what kind of expense does that take so I can still remain profitable? And I'm still working the plan. I'm just adding value to it, and I'm 5 years out front right now.
So you just go through that planning process, persistence, because it's not going to go as planned necessarily. You have it strategically lined out, but when you get out there, stuff goes wrong. So sometimes I'd have flights, it'd be perfect. It'd be a perfect flight. Other times I have to adjust midair.
But let me ask you a question. I will jump on that. But when you would adjust in midair, you still had a focus of your end result to land at that airport.
Yeah. We adjust in midair, but we get back on track.
Yeah. All right. So where I think a lot of people make a mistake in their plan is they hit a wall
Mm.
or they hit a roadblock. And what do you hear so many do? Look at Facebook posts and you'll see people state in their content, well, I was doing this project and had a little problem, so I stopped and I started. Well, you can't stop in midair and start over, right? So I'm a guy that believes in fix it on the fly.
Mm.
So I never stop my plan. I adjust my plan. I don't go into my plan with a plan A and a plan B. but I always get back to plan A. I just may have to throw B in there for a little while, but you cannot stop and start. If you do, all of that energy and all that time, you waste it.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that and keep pushing it forward. That's the way I believe, and it's worked for me.
Well, it has worked for you. I would agree to a big extent, because most people, they're constantly coming up with new ideas. As soon as they're one idea, and see, they had an idea, not a plan. They had an idea and they didn't plan it out. They take action on that idea, maybe, and as soon as they get any resistance or any change, they look for the new idea. And it's just constantly starting over. It's a treadmill of starting over, and it's a little painful for me to see it.
Well, think about your business in real estate. I love the way you've grown your business, but you're coaching people now, and they probably, there's some that get on the phone with you and they think, okay, I'll do exactly what Nick says, and I'll be able to duplicate what Nick did. And then they come back to you and go, hey, it didn't work. Well, no, it didn't work. It didn't add your element in there, So it's that adjustment from what we learn from someone like yourself that's so successful that we go, okay, now this is who I am. This is what Nick's success was. He's going to coach me through, so he's going to be able to help me master me using his tools. And if they do that and they follow your plan and they use your processes, it's like Reside. If they follow your plan, they use the processes, then stay persistent on the goal, the profit will be there.
How have you used, the last point I want to touch on, Sammie, is you talked about being a sponge. And being a sponge is a value of mine too. And I call it pursuing growth and learning, pursuit of growth and learning. So how do you go out there and put yourself in the position most conducive for you to be the best sponge on the planet, right? How do you get out there and put yourself in there? Because you can be a sponge, but if you're by yourself, you're not gathering anything. So how are you going out there so you can be the best sponge possible?
I spend a lot of time on the phone, obviously talking to people, and I like to communicate with people on Facebook and Messenger and Instagram and stuff. I like going to masterminds. I think they're critical. I like being a part of groups. I'm the old guy in the room, man. I'm that I'm that guy that people say, what the hell are you doing here? All these people are 30s and 40s. And I'm like, because I want to keep learning, because I want to give back now. I'm at the other side of that place where, I'll tell you a quick story. My father, when I was about 14, we were walking through a cemetery. We had been to a family friend's funeral. He stopped me and pointed to a headstone and said, look at this. And I was trying to get out of there, man. 14 years old. I didn't want to be in the cemetery. And he called me back and he said, read that headstone. And it was a man that my dad grew up with. And it said, good father, good friend, et cetera, et cetera. So I read that and I said, oh, okay. And he said, that was a friend of mine. He was a good man. I started walking away and he said, wait a minute. He said, but that's important while you're here. What's really important is before you leave here, is you leave every single bit of knowledge you can to the next generation so they can be better. And he said, if you do that, then you were truly successful. And I never forgot it. I never applied it till I got to be in my 30s, mid-30s, but I never forgot it. So I engage in all of these things so that I can, if I see something, I'll input it. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm more of the guy that tries to share with you things that make you think. I'm not going to give you the miracle process. That's what people like you and Sinead and Preston, y'all got that part mastered with what kind of tools exist today. I'm the guy that wants to get in your head and make you think just enough leave you my knowledge and what I learned so that they reach out to somebody like Nick and they go, okay, I got my head straight. I understand business now. I know I got a plan. Now I need somebody to help me with the process.
Mm.
And so I'm always looking for that. And I mean, you've seen me at John's not long ago. I jump out there and try to control the room. I try to be quiet. I try to listen attentively. If somebody speaks, I'm looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if I can learn everything. And I'm a big study of body language.
Mm.
And, but when I hear a trigger, I'm going to make a comment. But I want everybody in that room, like at John's, to think the right way and talk to folks like you on how to get there. I'm going to tell them, don't forget profit. Profit's critical. So many do. You're going to tell them how to get there.
Yeah, profit's critical. We were actually sitting next to each other at the mastermind at John's, and there was a moment where you spoke up. I think you probably remember it, but someone was mentioning how an expense is an investment or something along those lines. And not that that person was wrong, but it triggered something like, whoa, we got to be careful just calling all expenses investments. It may not be there. You might be spending money and not making money. You were kind of like, do you remember that moment, Sammie? You're like, I'm not that smart, but maybe some of these things aren't good.
I do. And I think it could have been a little bit of a Freudian slip, but he said he looked at his expenses as two ways. One as investments in the company and the other as expenses. And I went, whoop, hold on. I've got to cut here. If you have an expense that you cannot say is an investment in your company, that is called waste. Get rid of your waste. And they were also talking about programs, and I'm sure he didn't say it in that way, but
No.
when we say things, if you're in a mastermind room, somebody else may hear that and go, okay, well, I need to divide my expenses into two columns. If you can't classify it as an investment in your business, you are wasting money. Ooh. Get rid of it.
Well, you have a background in manufacturing, supply chain, logistics. I think people need to pick up on this a little bit. Any waste, I mean, that's your profit. Your waste is your profit. If you can identify it and it's not making an impact and you can get rid of it, and it may even make the process better by getting rid of it, you save that money and it's better. Can you speak to that? How you think about waste? Because this is a counterintuitive thing where people think they just need more. I need to spend more in marketing, do more of this, make more phone calls. It's like, well, wait a second. Let's try to figure out what wasted energy we have. Can you speak on waste?
Yeah, my first question when I see or sense or hear waste is, tell me the profitability of that dollar you just spent. Tell me how much money it put to the bottom line. It doesn't take a lot. But you have to dissect it. I mean, you got to listen for it. I believe the best way to manage your business is, let's simplify it the way I think. Your business is broken out from the financial side. It's just a bunch of general ledger accounts, right? Expenses. I mean, it's prescriptions and subscriptions and everything else and rent and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think the owner of the business has to look at their general ledger account. The top 10 expenses and the bottom 10 expenses belong to the owner or the head of the company. Everything in the middle, if you have other people, if you're a one-horse team, obviously it's all yours, but everything in the middle belongs to somebody else to keep an eye on. The reason I say that is, obviously the top 10, that's where you're going to lose your butt. If somebody's making bad decisions and got a lot of waste in there, you're going to lose a lot of money. The bottom 10 is where money just kind of slips out the back door. It doesn't necessarily mean somebody's doing something wrong, but I'll give you an example. When I bought my first office in Memphis, I walked in there and I was doing a little inventory of everything, and I walked in the supply room and they must have had 250 rolls of toilet paper. We didn't have but 4 bathrooms. And I mean, we had racks of it. And I said, why do we have all this toilet paper in here? Well, it just got easier just to buy a bunch at one time. I said, but did anybody look and see how much was in there before they bought? No, we you just don't want to run out. I said, you're never going to run out. And I know that sounds very simple, but at the end of the day, we made an adjustment from that, and we buy, we try to take advantage of the benefit of buying some bulk, but we buy for a month. I had a year and a half's inventory of toilet paper.
And it seems insignificant, toilet paper, right? But I get this because sometimes I go through my office and I look at those bottom 10 as an example of frugality, as an example of like, this is the detail we need to have culturally about not wasting, not wasting things.
It's not that we're not going to eventually use them, okay? It's the fact that we're tying up capital that we could invest in a better way. And so I look at those expenses to be able to control that waste or that loss of cash that we can invest. And then I do the same thing on the profit side of the ledger. The income side of the ledger, I would manage the top accounts, customers, and the bottom accounts and customers when I was in the selling side. So someone that's, that's an agent, you manage your client base the same way as this one. This one's giving me a lot of business, but I'm not making any money. But I got to think about this. Why am I not making money? Is there a better way for me to do it? And then the bottom ones I always looked at. These are the people that they're starting to believe in us, but I probably got the best upside with them. I just got to nurture them, and I got to make sure that I nurture it right, or that my salesperson or whatever nurtures it right. So that's the way I think when it comes to profitability of a business expenses.
Well, it's the more podcasts we do on the Reside podcast, and the more great, successful people that have reached a certain level of success in our industry, we keep finding they simplify things. We just spoke with Brian Danny, and it's coming out. By the time this goes live, it'll be out. He's a solo agent on a team. He's an agent on a team, he sold $174 million in sales last 2 years by himself. Something crazy.
Wow.
And his every day is simple. He focuses on the simple tasks that he knows matter. And it's just a way to run a business. And when I talk to you, I know you can simplify things, but you also have an understanding of how things work, which I think is really important too.
I tell people, I'll have folks that'll come talk about, how do you make running a business so simple? I'm like, well, it's all tied ultimately to finances, right? Yeah. I said, well, that's debits and credits. Only 2 parts. Either what you spend or what you make, right? And how's that hard? I don't have 100. And then you always get the counter that says, yeah, but the tax code. I'm like, that's what the accountant figures out. Why don't I want to try to teach him how to be an accountant?
Yeah.
Or run my business with debits and credits. And when it's over at the bottom, there should be some jingle down there. And that's how I view business. That's why I say run a business is simple. I tell you one more thing I do want to say. Running a business is very simple until you let emotion get in it. Business decisions are not emotional. We make them. And with emotion comes drama. Make the decision for business based on the facts and based on the company's benefit. Period.
Do you have any hacks or frameworks you use when you're in a situation where you think you're making an emotional decision?
Yeah, I think when we make emotional decisions in business is like you hire someone and they work for you, and you start to get um, more sympathetic to their constant issues of needs and problems, and you overlook and you overlook and you overlook, and then all of a sudden you had this challenging time that occurs like we're all in, and you've allowed yourself to let that person stay. Now you need to let them go, and you're just so connected here, and you're going to make a bad decision, and you're not going to let them go the right way. And there's other things, and we've always used this same vendor for our copiers, and there's another vendor down the street that's got a better product that delivers better, does everything we need. Yeah, but oh Joe, we watched his kids grow up. That's nice. Be his friend.
So making business decisions, not personal decisions, because that does happen too. It even happens to me over the years. It's like, well, loyalty is good. It's a good characteristic, but also hanging on too long is problematic for everyone as well, especially if we're not making money or the relationship's not working out the way it is. We need to make adjustments.
I like loyalty. I like profitability a lot in business.
Yes.
I like loyalty as my friend.
Very good. Well, Sammie, I have to acknowledge you for being a great friend and a mentor to a lot of people and myself, and being in the right rooms. You're not always the oldest guy in there, but you are the one with the biggest open mind and also able to give input. You helped me write my book. I was thinking about writing a book, and I reached out to you. You were the first person I reached out to because you had written a book. So you're an author. If people want to find your book, tell them about that. I would like them to know where to get that book at and what the name of it is.
And go to Amazon. It's the name of it's Behind the Gate, and it's about stories of my life and business and personal that I got a lot of my drive and knowledge from, and the way I look at people is we all have a gate that we stand behind and hide behind, and if we can ever get a little bit behind that gate, we'll get to know one another a lot better, and I might be able to help you, and you might be able to help me, not going into that with the thought of, I'm going to do this so I get a benefit. Going into that I might be able to help you. If I get the benefit, then it's just a reward that I want.
So that's Behind the Gate, and you can get it on Amazon. Sammie Knight is the author, and I know you're working on some more projects.
I have another book finished right now, and I have a third book. That's probably 3/4 done.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing. I had the pleasure of visiting a little bit with Nick, and he and I worked a little deal out, and he sent me 50 books that I'm going to hand out to my agents, because Nick's new book is filled. It's like you took Nick's brain out and you put it in a book that everybody can read. And so I'm so excited to be sharing that with my agents, and I appreciate you working with me on getting the 50. I'm sure I'll be getting some more.
Yeah, you're my pleasure. Yeah, it's a giant checklist, basically. Someone called me the other day and they said, Nick, it's basically one big checklist. I go, well, I was an airline pilot. What'd you expect? If I were to tell you exactly how to do everything, the book would be thousands of pages, and I just didn't think someone would be willing to read that. So it's a guide. Yeah. To your point earlier on, Sammie, was like, if I were to pass away or exit the industry, I want to leave something behind. And that is one thing. A book is a fabulous way to leave something behind, and that's what you're doing. And you're writing more than one, so I got to keep up. Write another one. Sammie, if they want to reach out to you, find you online. Any
online, they can go to Facebook, DM me, Sammie Knight, SammieKnight. Love to hear from anybody. I'm here to help if I can, and I'm damn sure always here to listen.
Oh, that's awesome, Sammie. Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure.